Building a home is exciting, but what most people don't expect is everything that happens.
All the questions, all the waiting, wondering if things are on track, going per schedule, right?
In this episode, we'll walk through exactly what to expect during the home building process and what that process actually feels like as you're going through it, from communication and timeline.
And just getting the finished product and your house becoming a home.
Because when you understand that part of the journey, everything changes. Welcome to Nail by Nail, Building More Than Homes. I'm Julie. I'm wife, mom, and proud co-partner in this adventure we call Loos Homes. Each episode of this Nail by Nail podcast will talk about what it really means to build more than just a house, to build community, connection, and purpose. And today, joining me is my husband and the founder of Loos Homes, Greg Loos.
Hey Julie, I'm happy to be here again, and thank you to all the listeners.
We're going to begin this talking about the part that no one talks about. In a previous episode, we walked through the step-by-step process of building or buying a home. But today, we want to talk about something a little different. Because understanding the steps is one thing, but actually going through the process is another. So there's a side of home building that people don't always expect. The waiting, the unknowns, and the emotions that come.
Yeah, there's a lot of... It's kind of funny because when you listen to people, and we just actually had not a testimonial, but a customer that we're building a home for right now. She's actually in the real estate industry, and she had posted, I think you call it a reel.
I think a video, yeah.
Well, whatever,
media.
Yeah, and she had just posted about, I'm at the beach, I'm on vacation with my family, my home is being built, and I actually am enjoying the process, and it's not stressing me out. So there's this, lots of times people think building a home is all stressful, but the reality is it doesn't need to be if you're working with the right builder and the proper procedures are in place, expectations and all that kind of stuff.
Right, so today we're going to talk about the three, well, I guess it's not C's, but I wanted to make it C's, but no, it's communication, timelines, and trust. So let's talk about communication, what it really looks like. So one of the biggest concerns people have going into building is communication. They wonder, will I know what's going on?
I understand how people would feel that way. I mean, after all, it's the biggest one-time financial investment folks are making at one time. So it's important to know that you're not getting passed along. I've always taken pride in our company in the fact that I don't want it to be corporate-y and people to feel like they can't put faces to names, but a single point of contact is really important the way we have it set up is the new home sales representative primarily initially is meeting with the clients, and then on our pre-sold custom built homes, we have them in direct contact with our project managers. So the actual project manager is communicating with the customer as opposed to it always being a sales agent, because a sales agent has different gifts than a project manager. And a project manager has different gifts, vice versa. So that has worked out really well. Otherwise, what ends up happening is people will have specific questions during the build process that is construction related, and then the salesperson may not have the knowledge of the person, the project manager in the field. So we found that streamlines the communication when people are building a home, a pre-sold custom home with Loos Homes. It's a different process than buying market-ready home, and we've talked about that in past episodes.
So is it true that sometimes during the home building process you're going to get a lot of communication, but then sometimes it's going to be kind of quiet?
Yeah.
And that's the part that makes people nervous, is when I haven't heard from my builder.
No news is good news?
Yeah.
So there's a couple things that we have adapted and tweaked and fine-tuned over the years to eliminate some of those concerns of quietness. Is first of all, we use a software system where the customer can actually engage with it, and a lot of it is just getting back to the communication. The one point of contact during the building process we have found to be really huge, and then setting the proper expectations with the customer before even the backhoe starts digging a hole. I mean, we have a pre-construction meeting with the new home sales representative, the project manager. It's basically like a sit-down kumbaya meeting of this is what to expect, instead of we'll let you know, off we go to the races. It's kind of like laying out for them. You're going to have a bunch of decisions to make in this easy, streamlined process of selections, but then we're going to start construction. You're not really going to be hearing from us unless we have something that popped up in the field that we need to ask you a question on. People can be as involved or uninvolved as they want to be.
And the progress still happens, whether you're involved or not involved.
Right. Okay. Yeah, because the scheduling of every home that we're building the schedule doesn't change unless a customer changes. Okay. So changes during the building process. I think we've talked about that previously too. So
let's talk about timelines. So expectations versus reality. So because that's another area where sometimes your expectations don't always match reality. For example, how long will it take?
We sign our building contracts for 5 months. Obviously, there's disclaimers in there about weather or unforeseen site conditions, but in all honesty, I cannot remember the last time we have had a home take us over 5 months to build. The only caveat to that is if a customer was signing change orders during the process, because changes typically don't speed up a construction process, they typically slow them down. I can't think of the last time we've had a house go over 5 months.
Well, let's be honest too, our culture is so used to, if I want something today, I can order it. We live in a rural area, so that doesn't really work, but like in a city, you can order something you want and almost have it there within hours. Building a home isn't like ordering something online, right? There's lots of moving parts that sometimes can be out of your control. Yeah,
the way that we build homes, we do site-built stick frame homes. Mm-hmm. So there are some home builders that do prefabricated systems, which are a bit speedier, but then it's, in my opinion, less of a unique custom home. So we do it, I don't want to say the old-fashioned way because we use a lot of modern building technologies and materials, but we do site-built stick-framed homes. So to get back to your question, it's kind of like if someone is a baker or a cook, sometimes you just can't get the results you want in something that bakes really quick. 5-minute cookies are probably not going to be as good as maybe 14-minute cookies.
Right. Well, let's talk about weather. We live in the Midwest, so how does weather can be a reality that can kind of might change some people's expectations?
Weather's
out of your control.
Yeah, weather's a factor. However, in our 5-month time period, we actually have time buffers built in and pre-planned for that. So it's not like if we have a week where it's really rainy or really cold. It's factored into the overall window of what we tell people. And that goes back to the communication ahead of the airplane or before the project starts, is that way we're not saying, on paper we're going to build your house in 4 months, but then every time we have a crappy week of weather, we have to contact the customer and say, oh, by the way, your closing of your house, your occupancy date has to move back a week. We've preloaded the project timeline with buffer in there for crappy weather.
Okay, can we talk about material delays or scheduling tradesmen, if there's some kind of snafu with that?
Yeah. Thankfully, thank God, we haven't had issues with material delays in a long time. And with our network of subcontractors and vendors that we use, because of the volume of work that we do at about 60 to 70 homes a year, and the relationships that we've built over time, we just don't have issues with, hey, by the way, your house is behind schedule because the cider couldn't show up, or the flooring company's behind, or the carpenters are behind it.
But now that you've just said that, it's going to happen.
Well, yeah.
But that doesn't mean something is going wrong. I just, some people might think if there's a material delay, let's say windows, something happens and windows are delayed, and not just this house windows, but windows across the country, and that does not mean something's going wrong.
We haven't had issues with that, and part of it goes back to what we had talked about in earlier episodes, is having the selection process done, the interior and exterior selections done before we start the house is really huge, because that way we can send out purchase orders and get all these materials ordered way in advance.
All right, so let's move on to trust. So this is the most important piece. So if there's one word that really defines the building process, it's trust.
Absolutely. It's kind of funny because I've thought about this for many years, and I've thought about this. I took a real quick glimpse of some of the topics you might be asking me about this morning, and it really actually starts back to some of the reasons when I started the company on a much smaller scale many years ago. It comes back to going through model homes or going through a parade of homes, and it's kind of this whole, the building industry is heavily based on touchy-feely TV commercials that you might have seen, or a totally, I call it like a Mac Daddied model, but yet builders will sell based on, this is the overall layout of the house. I'm building this model, but here's the base price, and then you add up from there.
Yeah.
So the whole part of the trust and communication and everything is we like to show people an undecorated, unfurnished home, because that's actually what you're going to get when if I was building a home for you and I didn't know you, your expectations are going to be met, and it's not going to be a letdown, because it's not like I'm going to have walked you through a home that is totally full of frills and thrills.
You mean
but
like
then when you're home,
like interior design and
all that kind of stuff. I found that the trust is built from that, and then explaining how we actually build, the unique practices of how we build, not necessarily comparing to other builders, but just educating the buyers. And then once they know, oh, you build your exterior walls this way. We've met with 4 other builders. They haven't even talked about, or the people we talked to at those builders didn't even know how their exterior walls were built. And that's really all that's between your family and Mother Nature outside. As a small example, so earning customers' trust it's earned. We need to earn it, and we do that by transparency, being down to earth, non-corporate-y. It's not a bait switch where it's like, here's a glitzed up house, but yet, okay, you've signed
your
up.
house is not going to look
and when when your house is done and we do a final walkthrough with you, you're like, oh, well, the rooms are the same size and it's laid out the same, and my countertops are what I picked out.
You miss all that because you're
but it's
worried
not
about the curtains or the couches or.
Yeah, and it's just like, gosh, it just doesn't look the same as the model home that we walk through. So we actually like to sell from, I don't want to say the bottom up, but like show people, our market-ready homes. Here's a market-ready home. Here's 4 or 5 upgrades we put into this home. But it's like a different process of, in the home building industry, it's very common for, and I think you know what I'm saying, like the glitzed up.
Yeah.
Everything is glitz and glamour.
On the interior design, and you totally miss like the actual house because you're more like, oh, this is so nice,
Right.
And you miss like the actual house because you're so stuck on like what you can see.
Yeah, so given the fact that I started as a carpenter, I like to earn that trust in that regard, as opposed to, I'm not a decorator. I mean, you don't want me decorating your house, right?
Well, and that's just, we're so different. People are so different that even like, that might not be your like interior design like theme, or, I don't know, you can just get stuck in that. But let's talk a little bit about this angle. So let's say I'm building a home with you, I come and get my selections, and now you have to build my home.
You don't get your selections, you make your selections. That's your favorite part.
Yeah. So now you're going to build my house piece by piece. There's a lot of trust from me saying, okay, that's what I want, and now you're off and running and building my home. And when I'm not there, like, it's not like I'm there with your contractors being like,
looking over their shoulder.
Yes, that's a huge amount of trust too.
You have to trust your builder. So that's why it goes back to what we previously just talked about. I explained what I enjoy, the process that I like to use, that we like to use at Loos Homes for earning people's trust. But you don't need to watch over people's shoulders if you trust your builder.
Right, and so that might be a good, like,
that's what causes
temperature
people's
thermostat.
trust.
Like, if you are not 100% confident in the builder you've chosen, let's say you're like 75%, maybe it's not the best working relationship.
Yeah, the other thing too, and again, I don't want to sound salesy, but this is just factually true, let's be honest. The longevity of being in business has a lot to say for being able to, so like if we've been in business for nearly 30 years, over 1,500 homes.
Yeah.
and a long list of happy customers and testimonials and people that we could, past customers that I know would be happy to give a referral to somebody considering us. That doesn't happen overnight, as opposed to some building companies that are owned by multiple different owners.
Yeah.
So it may be the same brand name company,
Yeah.
but it wasn't founded and owned by the same owner
Right.
over that period of time.
Yeah.
So there's a difference there.
All right, so let's talk about the emotional side of building. So that's something that we don't talk about enough. There's an emotional side to building. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I've seen it firsthand, and I've had the opportunity to meet with customers after their house is done and actually shake their hands, and there was tears shed of joy, of gratitude from the customers.
Yeah, would
and
you say it's
really it was meaningful to me.
Yeah. Would you say it's kind of like an emotional roller coaster? I mean, from seeing the first wall go up and the feelings like that, and then when the home is done, I mean, there can also be moments of stress and uncertainty, maybe worry. Obviously, you've talked about how your staff tries to alleviate that, but I mean, still, the biggest purchase of your life, and just, I mean, yes, the physical structure's going up there, but we as humans also think of the Christmases we're going to have, the graduation party, bringing our baby home from the hospital in that house.
There's a lot of emotions, and there's exciting phases of a house as it's being built, and then there's time periods while the house is progressing where it may look to the customers like the last 2 weeks, things looked like a lot more was done than this week, and that's all because of the different phases of the house. But building homes for families is extremely intimate, and it's intimate in the fact that there's deep emotions tied up into that house, because ultimately, one of our company slogan, built with your family in mind, built with the family in mind, is people are going to have all kinds of major life experiences within the walls of that home and in the yard of that home and around the home and stuff like that. So it's like memories in the making. So I kind of went down a rabbit hole there, but hopefully I answered your question.
Yeah. How does Loos Homes support you through it? So one of the biggest parts of our role isn't just building the home, it's supporting our homeowners through the process.
Yeah, I think it's through establishing a personal relationship in a non-corporate atmosphere, good communication and clear expectations from the start, which are derived by good and polished systems that are tried and true. So again, that experience factor, and then just the down-to-earth, approachable. If you have some construction-related questions, you can actually talk to the construction manager of your house during the process, instead of just feeling like nobody cares at the home building company.
Right. And do you think keeping a bigger picture in mind, eventually you're going to have this home, and the building process is going to be such a small little blip in the timeline versus when you're finally in the home, you're building the home for your family that is going to live in, grow in, and make memories in years to come.
Yeah, keeping the end goal in mind is huge throughout the process for customers, and we encourage them with that. And I keep going back to one of the unique things that separates Loos Homes from many of the competitors in the areas of which we build are the longevity of being in business by the founder and single-owned company, the personable non-corporate atmosphere, and the personable approach, and just the whole setting expectations from the start. And it's open. There's no bait switch on anything. There's no showing you a fully decorated. I keep going back to that, but the industry is so like that. Is people see a decorated, fully furnished, juiced up model, and then what they are getting and signed a contract for doesn't include the mental image they have. 70% of that is out the window. And that's what I've found is so trust earning by doing it the way we do it.
So let's talk about keeping perspective through the process. So if you could leave people with one thing, what would it be?
If I could leave people with one thing?
Yeah, about the building process. You could say the building process isn't perfect, but it's worth it, or what would you leave people with?
This may sound cliche, but I can truthfully say everybody that works in in our company knows my principles, which is happy customers, happy team of people at Loos Homes, and a happy network of vendors and subcontractors. Those are my 3 business principles. But as far as building homes goes, it needs to be on target, meaning quality, communication, experience, on time, and on budget. So those are the 3 main pinnacles of a building project. Is, the product needs to be on target, and it needs to be on time, and it needs to be on budget.
Good.
I can't think of any other.
That was really good. So in the end, you're not just getting a house, you're stepping into a home that was built just for you. So thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Nail by Nail, Building More Than Homes. We hope today gave you a more honest look at what it feels like to go through the home building process and helped you feel a little more prepared for the journey. It's not just about the finished product, it's about the experiences along the way. And when you understand that, it changes everything. Be sure to follow Nail by Nail wherever you listen to podcasts. And if this episode encouraged you, we'd love for you to share it with someone who's thinking about building. Thank you for listening, and remember, the best things in life are built nail by nail.